I'll go ahead and call this meeting of the Emergency Service Committee meeting, to order. Check that out.
Let you know, of course, the reason I called the meeting, or asked for the meeting, is in regards to staffing. Obviously, you know that Joe Cole retired as rescue chief about a month ago. Part of the reason I haven't advertised for the position is I've been, I guess, considering a change to allow Chief Hanks to serve as both fire and rescue chief. I think that he's got management skills to be able to do it. He's pretty skilled at budgeting, scheduling, purchasing, operations, those type things. And I'm confident that he can do that. And I think it does kind of provide maybe a little bit of an opportunity for example, if we do make Billy the fire and rescue chief, one thing I will let you know, because of the extra responsibility and probably a few extra hours, I would want to give him a little bit of boost in pay. I'm thinking about $10,000. But one of the benefits is then rather than hiring a rescue chief position, I would hire another advanced life support position and have them on an ambulance. And they would be dedicated 40 hours a week to running calls. Whereas Joe was in a position while yes, he ran calls, but he also had administrative duties that he had, like I mentioned, budgeting, scheduling, purchasing, and managing general operations. And so I think you'll get some benefit in hours this way, and hopefully have a little bit more ambulance availability. I think there are some opportunities too. I think Dustin is basically the deputy rescue chief. I think he can learn from Billy. I've told Dustin that I am open to the possibility of changing the situation in the future. We'll say Billy were to retire in a few years, it's possible that we could basically re-advertise as separate positions at that point. And also it's possible that just maybe over time that Dustin basically grows into position. Billy feels comfortable giving him the title. We do that and move on. So I am certainly open to them being separate again. And I'll tell you, even though they would have one director, they're still going to have separate identities. And we aren't simply going to make wholesale changes. Give you an example of that. I've told Billy any changes that he does make, I'd want him to run them both by me and Dustin. And of course, the first thing he's going to do is basically just observe. I think the first several months there aren't going to be any changes. He's going to see how things are running, look at scheduling, budgeting, purchasing, operations, things like that. If there are potential changes to be made, like I say, first thing he's really to do is to talk to Dustin and me about the possibility. Like I say, it can always be undone in the future if we need to. But I think for now, I do see a benefit to doing it. I'm bringing it before you because, of course, you're the Emergency Services Committee, and I want your blessing to do it. If you are agreeable to it, then what I would plan to do is bring it up under my manager's reports tomorrow night and just let all the council know.
So when you told Dustin about this, how did he take it?
He was obviously a little bit disappointed. Sure. Although, I'll say this, I think I actually met with he and Billy today in regards to some of these things, and I think it's a pretty positive meeting. Okay. Dustin is very good EMT, very skilled. Billy thinks very highly of his skills. Mm-hmm. And we certainly plan on utilizing them to that full capacity. He is, like I say, extremely knowledgeable. He's as good a life sport person as there is in the whole New York Rally, really. So, obviously, huge knowledge base, particularly medically. Right. And Billy is obviously going to need to lean on that pretty heavily. That's part of the reason Billy needs input along the way. But again, like I say, I don't really plan on any wholesale changes. Long term, I do think there's potential to, let's say there's a fireman that's extra at the fire department and we need a driver at rescue. Could we bring somebody over to drive? That's a possibility. Not any immediate plans to do that, but just the type of thing I think we could possibly look at. I think we can maybe get some benefits from like scene coordination and things like that from having one chief. I'll put it out there for your discussion and opinions. And
well, it's kind of like you said, and I'm going about since I've done it, but like I said, there was many times when we was in the rescue, we had fire department members drive for us all, drive for, drive, 'cause you need a driver sometimes, you
Yeah.
can't get from A to B without a driver.
Yes.
So, back in those days, I think it worked real well. I can see this, obviously, there's probably somewhat hurt feelings of, like, what they trying to do, this, and this. And to me, and once again, if things should start going south, to me, that's where Billy needs to step in. I mean, you got the position for a reason, not to be a figurehead,
Stress this with Billy,
Yeah.
that we don't want to go backwards in terms of the quality of care, because we
Right.
have made great advances in the terms of medical care that you receive.
Right. Okay. So would Billy's title change, or?
It would, I would basically add rescue chief to his title.
Okay.
I thought, just as an observer, said we have no input to your
And
committee.
I'll say this, Billy's not married to titles either. I'm
Yeah.
open to anything. It could be director of fire and rescue, it could
Right.
be director of volunteer emergency services. I'll tell you, like I say, I don't think Billy is hung up on titles, and personally, I'm really not either. I think all three of those describe it accurately.
Right, but I just was, you just
I
said that.
like the director thing.
Well, the thing I was thinking about, if you do that, if we use that title, will people get that confused with the Montgomery County?
Emergency is,
Yeah,
That and if when people leave the volunteer out, they think he's over the chief, you know. Or Chief Sisson.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah,
no, no, we don't want to give people that rumor mill started. Well, that's something you can work off on. I'm just saying, the title, like I say, it's not a big deal, but like I said, I was just thinking the director of emergency services, people think that Montgomery County already have that.
Yes.
So,
That's, all honesty, that's part of the reason I think Billy liked the fire and rescue.
Fire and rescue, okay.
Just to maybe try to avoid that type of confusion.
Both of them together, right, okay. All right, well.
I think Billy's got 3 EMTs on the fire department.
He does, although the plan isn't to move those people.
No, I understand that, but I mean,
Right.
in a backup role.
And could those people more easily serve as drivers? I think they could, because obviously they know
If you drive a fire truck, you ought to be able to drive one of them ambulances.
It's a little bit different, because if you got patients and equipment and people being worked on in the back.
People standing up and you bounce them around, but yeah,
I think
common sense.
Gordon Red, when he was alive, after he retired, I think he drove a lot
He did.
for, well, I say a lot, he drove anytime they needed somebody, because he was always at the fire station.
Yeah. Well, like I said, this is, to me, I'm saying, this is nothing new, this idea, because, I kind of heard talk about it months and months and months back, what else, and to me, if we're going to do it, and that's an ideal time to do it. The position is open, and I say, if you give Billy his 10,000, I don't know what Joe was making, but I'm sure that's still saving money.
We would actually be saving a little bit of money.
That's one thing, even if you hire the other full-time, I'm sure there's be some savings in there.
And like I say, kind of maybe a little bit of a side benefit is I think we'd pick up some ALS hours, because you'd have a dedicated
Right.
ALS person.
Right. Yeah.
How old is Dustin?
I can't tell you off the top of my head.
Who, Billy?
Well,
Well,
not Billy Hanks, but the other fellow.
Dustin.
Dustin.
I
He's a young-
guess late 30s, maybe.
Oh, okay, so he's gonna be around for a while.
That's, really up to him, but we certainly hope so.
Uh-huh. Well, and do you
Like I
think-
say, he's very skilled.
Will he get any increase in pay?
Not planning that at this time, because his job function really wouldn't change.
Okay.
He'd still be the deputy rescue chief.
Right.
Does the rescue people, do they know about this yet?
I've told Billy and I've told Dustin. I haven't, had other people approach me from rescue, but I hadn't made the decision at that point. They were just basically giving me input.
My question is, well, do you think it's gonna go over all right?
I certainly hope so. Like I say, I think the meeting today with Dustin was pretty positive.
Okay.
Yeah. No, see, you know, short, like I said earlier, short, on the rescue side, I feel a little bit of heartburn for a little bit, but once again,
I understand that.
oh, I do, that's what I'm saying, if I was, yeah, see, you know, what they're trying to.
All honesty, that's probably why it's taken me a month to make the decision.
Sure, I understand.
Because I have struggled with it.
Yeah, yeah. Well, you know, if you're asking for my blessing, you got it. I mean,
Yeah, I'm the same way, and Sam knows more about it than I do, the situation,
yeah.
and if he's happy with it, that I would be more than happy to go along with that.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, it's not that it's like we come in and fire Joey when, and then, it's vacant. So let's try something, and, you know, when you say, what, 6 months, a year, whatever time frame you wanna set, I mean, it may not work, but we hope it do.
And again, if it doesn't work, it's easy enough to undo. And Billy understands that.
He really understands that part of it. This is a trial position.
Yes.
Okay. I mean, and I know we don't hold anything secrets back and stuff like that. I mean, if he's willing to accept it with knowing that, you know, hey, it may last, what, like 6 months, a year, or indefinitely.
Yeah.
But I just think it takes someone with management of personnel. I mean, we know.
That's really the role that he'd be serving,
Right.
even though obviously you have to have some knowledge of medical procedures, which he has some knowledge of.
Mm-hmm.
He would have to rely on Dustin for that
Right.
type of expertise though.
Yeah, I can see that people say, well, what does he know about medical? Well, you know what? As long as you get a little bit of knowledge, but my main thing is, do you know how to manage your people? That's my personal feeling right now.
And essentially, that's kind of what I'm doing, is I'm putting Billy in to be a personnel and operations
Right.
manager.
Yeah, okay.
Let you know, just for your information, the county has been looking at staffing at their stations. They have trouble covering Charlottesville, Elliston, and Ryder. Both are issues for them. They are looking at the possibility of putting a couple of paid people at both of those stations. I don't think they've made a final decision on that.
Right.
I have kind of mentioned to at least Craig and a couple of the Board of Supervisors that I guess personally, if they were going to fund positions at those stations, I wish they'd fund a position here, and probably Blacksburg as well, just because, you know, our citizens are part of the county too, and, you know, kind of deserve, I think, the same consideration.
Right, and we've heard it from our own council members, and, you know.
That, and we are the population center, so, you know, it kind of makes sense if, to me, if the calls are, I guess, if somebody's being dispatched from somewhere to cover calls, it makes sense that it be from the population centers, because that kind of gives you better overall coverage. You know, but we can cover Charlottesville or Ryder better than they can cover us, is basically what I'm saying.
Right,
I think.
I got, okay, makes sense to me. All right, now's the time to try it. We know there's gonna be some hard feelings, but you know, anytime you make changes in management, people get their feelings hurt, or, you know, but it's just grow up. Not to be rude, but you know, let's see how it works. You know.
There's a fairly good contention from, not contention, there's pretty strong feelings from some of the older rescue squad members that they'd like to see Billy do this.
Yeah.
And they're most all of them are volunteers, so it's hard to say. But I think, you know, as we all know, that's Randy's decision.
Oh, yeah, I can see, well, I can see some grumbling, you know, from a couple, but you know.
It is a big change change, and that's the reason I want the blessing of the committee and the council. But, I do think there's a possibility that we can make a positive change here and have better coverage and hopefully better operations.
So when would this, start?
Well, if council is agreeable tomorrow night, I would potentially advertise the advanced life support position immediately.
Okay, I'm with
And
you.
Billy would probably meet with staff on Wednesday from rescue.
Okay. I'm still good with it.
And just in general, I'll mention staffing is, long-term, it's a concern. We obviously depend pretty heavily on Virginia Tech students for our staffing because of the medical school and,
Yeah.
opportunities there. And that's a good thing for us, but the bad thing is, after 2 or 3 years, you lose them.
Mhm.
And, you also have issues in the summer, you have issues at Thanksgiving, you have issues at Christmas,
Yeah.
because they all go home.
Mhm.
So, that's something we struggle with all the time, but we've managed.
How have we been doing as far as coverage in the last couple of months?
Actually, pretty good.
Okay.
We're still a NIP provider of mutual aid too,
Mhm.
so.
The day is coming that everybody's gonna be paid, isn't it?
I hope not from, I guess a managerial standpoint, because you're talking.
That may be beyond our time, but that's somebody else's problem.
And it might be another manager's issue, in all honesty, but, I wouldn't be surprised one day that it is all paid.
Yeah.
No.
And we aren't the only locality having issues.
Oh, sure.
No, no. Mm. Yeah, I think, if we ever been fully paid, then people hope the citizens will realize how much money the volunteers were saving.
Yes.
I mean, in the long run. I think they probably know it, but until you start digging into pockets, there's a lot of money being saved.
Yes.
Yeah.
What did fire run, like 600 calls last year, and rescue ran over 5,000?
Yeah.
Fire department ran 900.
Yeah, it was. The biggest call run ran 600 some. Yeah, but it's 900 some total.
800, one of the guys ran 800 and some calls
Yeah.
Mm.
for the fire department.
Unreal.
And like I say, rescue runs over 5,000 a year, so they're running over 400 a month.
Mm.
And they're doing fairly well on getting, refund on this, aren't they, from insurance companies?
Yes, we are getting revenue recovery, and it's pretty good revenue, pretty steady revenue stream.
Mhm.
I mean, it's pretty dependable, because if you've got Medicaid, Medicare, they just automatically pay, your insurance will just automatically pay. And, we do the compassionate billing, so we don't go after people for it,
Yeah.
don't turn it over to collections.
That's over 600 a year, and 660 is the last time I saw a figure.
It's over 700 a year.
Yeah.
And because of rate increases, it's gonna go up. We think it'll go up about 200 to 250,000 a year. So, the rest of
Pay for a lot of staff out of that.
the rest of this year, we should probably generate about 100,000 more than what we have in the budget.
Wow.
Any other items you'd want to discuss?
I'm good. Yep. Okay. There's no other items. If there's no other items, this meeting's adjourned.